Was 2013 a good year for freedom? Tonight, our all-star panel tackles that question. David Bose of the Cato Institute, Sabrina Schaefer of the Independent Women's Forum, and Nick Gillespie of Reason TV. So the big story now is Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. Many people really believed it would cover more people with more insurance and still be affordable, cheaper. I mean, how could that be? Magically, we'd get more stuff for less? Now some of the truth has come out. Prices are up. Some people lost coverage. The Cato Institute predicted that. So,
well, that's right.
You happy?
Yes, we're happy to have been proved right. Look, everybody knows you can't have the government, at least they should know, you can't have government central planning create more things for more people and have it cost less. We could have more stuff for less money if we made people consumers of their own health care and they had some skin in the game, if they had their own, if they were paying out of pocket for these things. But since we're not doing that, we're moving away from it. Of course it's going to get more expensive. And what's happened so far...
Wait a second. People don't get that. People say, oh, these private insurance companies, they make a profit. And by having government mandate that the profit isn't too much and organize things better, that will be cheaper for all.
Profit is not where your payment is going. You're going to cover the whole process. And when people are not personally invested in what they're buying, so they don't actually care how much the hospital room costs and how much the doctor
Which happens with all insurance.
And it goes up, which happens well, certainly with all health insurance. It means that there's no incentive to keep costs down. Well, and then we get this.
My biggest concern about Obamacare is as bad and as disastrous as the rollout of the healthcare website is, if history is correct, this is probably as good as Obamacare is going to get. When you look at Social Security or Medicare, those programs were relatively efficient in doing stuff early on. Now, 50, 70, 80 years later, we see they're bankrupt and they're bankrupting the rest of the country. So enjoy it now because Obamacare is not going to get better.
I think the sort of silver lining to Obamacare is that more and more Americans are understanding now that until they own and control those health care dollars, we will not have efficiency in health care, we will not have better care, we will not have transparency.
Many celebrities campaigned for Obamacare and promoted the administration's Get Covered campaign. One actress went topless to encourage people to sign up. Some made videos. Here's one with Olivia Wilde.
If you're sick, insurance can't limit your benefits cap.
Obamacare!
If you can't afford it, the government will actually give you money to help pay for it.
Obamacare!
Yippee! And celebrities don't realize that they're asking their young fans to sign up to pay for geezers like me.
It's so easy to fall for this snapshot view of the world. If people don't have health care, let's give them health care. And who can do that? The government, because they have all the money in the world.
I do think the disastrous rollout of Obamacare has really kind of woken up a lot of younger people to understand that Obamacare is just one more case of generational theft that is going on, where it is people like Obama who's, you know, on the wrong side of 50, and it's like Medicare, it's like Social Security. These are systems that were put into place for good reasons, but are screwing young people, poor young people, and their future.
To pay for me.
In order to pay for
I appreciate
people.
what you guys are doing for me.
I hope you enjoy it. Just spend it wisely.
Let's move on to government spending. This year we had another partial government shutdown, and the media suggested America might not survive.
A government shutdown will slash the zoo's operations, which could put the baby panda at risk.
It's pathetic. It's not responsible.
Nancy Pelosi says the budget has already been cut to the bone.
The cupboard is bare. There's no more cuts to make.
The cupboard is bare?
We always get into this debate of what should we cut, and it detracts from the larger picture because in the end, that's not really what's dragging us down with our national debt. It's the entitlement spending. And research that we conducted actually found that there's wide appeal among the public for entitlement spending and for spending restraints, not cuts, but just to spend the same this year as we did last year. And I think if the politicians actually thought about it in those terms, they would have a policy win and a political win.
As inflation goes up, you're not going to raise my Social Security payment?
Well, I think there is going to be some realistic,
old people are going to scream.
But I think actually people want to see that the entitlements have means testing. I think people realize that now as people are investing more in 401ks and elsewhere that we don't need to have that reliance on our heavily run government entitlement program.
Yeah, this is, Social Security is not a retirement plan. It is a ripoff that takes money from relatively young poor people and gives it to relatively old.
What do you mean it's a ripoff? Say the older people I talk to. I paid into that system all my life.
Yeah, well, then you are not getting a payout that is tied to what you put in. It's so bad that people are starting to wake up to it.
Well, I hope they're waking up to it. When I talk to people on the streets, some do say government is too big. Great. But then I find it upsetting when I ask them, well, so what would you cut? They don't know.
Oh, my. I don't know. You can't cut education.
You can't cut health care, I don't think. I'm not sure what else you can cut.
I do want to point out a few people on the street were quick to name things government should cut.
Education and spending and social programs.
Really? What about the people who need them?
That's what the states are for.
You don't want to pay for my health care?
No, sorry.
What would you cut?
Anything not authorized by the Constitution, we eliminate.
What would happen to the poor people?
Well, I'm a poor person. I would eat. I would find a way to eat.
Sabrina, I haven't heard people say this until this decade. This is a new concept.
It's actually really fantastic because one of the big things that doesn't come out of this conversation about the government spending is that they crowd out private institutions, private charities that otherwise would come in and help people in need. Of course, we don't want it to be a do it alone society. We want to help people in need. And these people on the street are recognizing that. They're saying, hey, the local church is a much better option for helping people who are in need.
Next topic. NSA spying. All three of you say this is one of the biggest stories of the year. But I just don't get it. Something must be wrong with me. I mean, I assumed spying was going on. I assume my political enemies somehow read my emails. The stuff flies through the air. I assume my 16-year-old neighbor can pick it up. I made this list of 100 things I hate more about my government than NSA spying. After I put this up on Facebook, libertarians trashed me, called me disgusting. A lino means libertarian in name only. So please educate me. What am I missing, Nick?
I think you are particularly cynical about government. And of course, it's true that libertarians generally, they think the worst of government. They think the worst of centralized power to begin with. So you're in a rare place. The reason why the Edward Snowden revelations about the NSA are about broad-based, wide-scale surveillance by the government of virtually every transaction, every interaction that you're having, freaked people out is because that's not what the government has been saying to them. Barack Obama and other people in his administration have point of fact said, we are not looking at your phone calls. We're not looking at your internet browsers. We're not doing any of that. It turned out to be wrong. These are things that outrage people because it is such a disconnect between the public face of government and what it actually does. That's why
it's more outrageous than the drug war?
One of the points is most of us don't use drugs, and so we think the drug war doesn't affect us that much. We all drive cars, have email, have telephones, so suddenly we've discovered they're spying on all of us. It isn't just terrorists, it isn't just foreign leaders. I don't think Americans did understand that, and that's why there's been this huge eruption about it. Maybe it's significant.
Huge eruption?
Well, there's a
I think there's been a pretty huge eruption, certainly among journalists who have been putting it on the front pages for a long time, and certainly among all the wired citizens in the country, lots of internet outrage. Now, has it cost anybody an election? Well, we haven't had an election since this came out, but has it cost the government a lot of the trust that it had built up? Yeah.
Gallup has found that an all-time high of Americans, it's something like 65% of independents believe that the government has too much power. I think that is directly attributable not only to the demonstrable failures of various government policies, but these disclosures. People are very, very bothered by this.
Before there was sort of the fear of the military-industrial complex. Now there's the realization that there's a military information complex.
You know what one of the causes of the American Revolution was? It was the writs of assistance. Writs of assistance is another name for general warrants. And they put it in the Constitution that you can't do that anymore. You have to get a specific warrant. You have to say, we have reason to believe that in this address there is terrorist-related activity.
But
and now they've
coming
decided
into
they
my
can
house.
do a dragnet.
They're just the machine says, oh, this guy's talking to Abdul
They're
a lot.
looking at where your car goes, where your phone calls go, where your emails go.
And this is also important that even, you know, and of course always wrapping it in the shroud of government secrecy, so we can't tell you. You have to trust us. You just found out we've been lying to you for a very long time about whether or not we're spying on you, but you have to trust us when we say we won't abuse it. The cases that people in Congress like Dianne Feinstein and people in the NSA and whatnot brought forward to say, look, this is how we use the data. Inevitably, those cases do not rely on mass data sweeps, but on old-style police and intelligence work where you infiltrate a known terrorist cell, find an email address, and then start tracking that. It's never about this, oh, we're going to collect everything, run it through, you know, UNIVAC, Brainiac 65, and then there's your terrorist wrapped up with a bow.
And they're asking us to trust them as they repeatedly lie and then say, oh, okay, well, I wasn't telling the truth then, but now I'll tell you we don't do any more than this. And then a week later, it's, okay, well, it's not any more than this. So we know that they're serial liars about this.
Next, gun control. After the Newtown school shooting, there was another big push for gun control. Here in New York City, my friends, my own wife, said, how could you not say there shouldn't be more rules against these terrible weapons? And yet, no new legislation resulted. So, what happened?
I think what happened is that people recognize that you don't make good laws in the wake of a tragedy, which Sandy Hook certainly was. People
recognize that?
I think so. That's why legislatures, yes. You know, in this case, as you were saying, major gun control legislation did not go forward at the national level.
The media doesn't recognize it. They're saying, pass it, pass it.
But they don't.
Are you saying the people are smarter than the media?
Yeah,
maybe. Yes.
But you know, the fact of the matter is what people understand is that over the past 20 years or more, there have been liberalized gun laws. More people can own guns and carry them in more circumstances across the country. At the same time, gun violence has gone down dramatically.
Guns are a very cultural issue. East Coast elites, liberal elites, they don't like guns. They don't know guns. They haven't been around guns. Out in the heartland of America, what they call flyover country, lots of people use guns. Mostly, they use them responsibly. They can give them to their teenage kids and teach them how to go hunting. And a lot of the Bloomberg Hollywood axis, they don't understand that. And so they're surprised when these terrible things happen, and it doesn't cause the American people to say we need to crack down on guns. In fact, opposition to stricter gun control has been going steadily up in Gallup polls the last 20 years.